everyone, my name is Christina. I went to Réunion Island, a couple years ago in a teaching program called TAPIF. And to this day, I still get emails and DMs asking, what it's like, more details about the program and setup and everything like that. So I thought I would make a Q&A video to help anyone out that is researching more about the island, that wants to go. Because I remember before I went, it was really hard to find any kind of resource and really any up-to-date resource. So I hope this helps in any way, and to anyone that is applying, I strongly encourage you to do so. But I wanted to break down my most commonly asked questions into 3 different categories. That is 1, the program details, 2, reunion culture, and 3, personal questions that I got. So I hope this helps, and thanks for watching. So about the program TAPIF, and also this can apply to the British Council because with the program and the group that I was working with, a lot of the other English assistants were also from the British Council. So hopefully that helps, and I know that everything will be exactly the same with them, but a lot were pretty similar. So the number 1 question I get asked a lot is the housing arrangements. This was actually my biggest struggle when I first got to the island. I was in a hotel for a week, and then I stayed at a teacher's place for a couple of days, and then I thankfully found a place. But housing is super tricky. Housing is not provided. You kind of have to find it on your own. A lot of people look at Le Bon Coin, and it's useful but not super reliable. So really what I suggest with housing is to talk to your reference teacher, the past assistant teacher in that school, and try to make as many connections to people who are actually there, because online resources aren't exactly reliable for housing, so good luck with that. Another question that I get asked a lot is, where did I teach and what exactly did you do for your job? And so obviously this is an English teaching program. TAPIF is an acronym for Teaching Assistant Program in France, or the outside departments like Réunion. So I taught in Saint-Denis, which is the capital, but I wanted high school, so that's pretty good. And I was placed in 2 different high schools, and I was kind of I wasn't a structured teacher that people came to every single day. I was kind of like a specials teacher or an assistant. And I will say, I'm gonna say this a lot in this video, that it really depends on your school and your region. Everyone's situation was totally different. So for me, I was placed in 2 different schools, and in each school I had 4 English teachers that I was assigned to, and each teacher, I took a part of their class out once a week for an hour and just kind of did whatever I wanted to, and they really wanted to focus on speaking skills because they wanted a native accent. And so it was kind of I don't know, a lot of speaking exercises, a lot of icebreakers for me, and I went through a lot of different groups of students. I really liked it because I got to meet a lot of different kinds of students, but I kind of wished I had a specific class dedicated to me. And so that's kind of, if that makes sense. If it totally doesn't make sense, I'm sorry. But I know some other assistants stayed in the classroom with professors and just kind of helped them out in their classroom. Everything is totally different. That's just kind of how my situation was. Another question I get asked a lot about the program is the cost of living actually more expensive? And if you go on the TAPIF website, they're gonna always say how much more expensive the Outre-mers are. And for me, it is more expensive, but not drastically expensive. It wasn't as expensive as I thought it would be. My housing situation, I got really lucky, and my rent was $270 a month, which is super cheap. But I think on average, most other assistants had a rent of 400 to 550 euros. And obviously, if you live in the city, it's more expensive. If you live by yourself, it's more expensive. You live in a group, it's cheaper. I lived in a house with 10 other people, and that's probably why it was cheaper, and I absolutely loved it though. And the groceries can be a little more expensive because everything is imported, but a lot of the fruits and vegetables are from Reunion. So I kind of say yes and no to this. It's not as expensive as everyone makes it out to be, but yeah. So that's all I can think of for the program details so far. But I'm going to say this multiple times. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the comments. My email will be in the description, my Instagram. Feel free to ask any questions. I love talking about it, but I just wanted to make this video in hopes that it'll help answer questions easily. Okay, so now to the topic of reunion culture. A question I get asked a lot is, what is the culture like? Is it African? Is it French? What is it? The answer is yes. It's all of the above. What I loved about the reunion culture is that it's super diverse, it's super mixed. So technically, I mean, it's in the African region, but it is a French department. The culture is super different, and that's kind of what I loved about it, because it was like France, because I mean, I have been to France before, but with a twist. So I don't know if that makes any sense. You definitely see French elements, like, you know, you see bakeries and baguettes everywhere, but the African culture, I mean, there's so much tropical fruit and these colorful dresses and such a different kind of music, and it's such a beautiful mix, and that's kind of what I love about the different French departments, is that it's all so different, but it's all technically France. Another question about Reunion is, what is the transportation like, and do I need a car? Transportation makes me laugh because it's like a pain in the butt, but it's public transportation, so I really can't complain. So at least in Saint-Denis, it's the capital, so it's supposedly supposed to have, you know, the best of the best, but the bus system, it was a love-hate relationship. It was reliable for most times, but if you go and take the bus, which the bus system is the only public transportation, there's no subways or anything like that, because it's an island, so going underground would totally be a wrong move. Anyways, the bus system, it's good up until rush hour, which is the lunchtime, because in French culture, kind of everyone has their own French time. Everyone stops working for lunch. If you try to take the bus around 12, you will be squished, like shoulder to shoulder pressed in the bus with people, or the bus will totally miss your bus stop and keep driving, and you won't be able to catch a bus for a good 30-45 minutes. Yeah, but that's the bus system. I did not get a car, and I don't regret that decision. Also, one, because I can't drive manual, I can't drive stick, so getting an automatic car would be very difficult and very expensive. And another reason why I didn't get a car is that I enjoyed public transportation. The bus took me, you know, to the grocery stores, to my schools, everywhere I needed to go. There is also a bus system that goes from city to city, so if I wanted to go to the east side or the west or the south, I could just take a bus there. And so it wasn't terrible. I would say a car is pretty good if you want to go on a lot of hikes. I was able to go on a decent amount of hikes by different groups and different friends that had cars. A car is also really useful if you like to be out late at night, because the bus systems will stop around 8 or 8:30 p.m. So, yeah. Another question about the reunion culture is, how embedded is the Creole language? And so the official national language of Reunion is French, but Creole is widely spoken. I wouldn't say you need to speak Creole or know Creole to survive on Reunion. Everyone speaks French, but I think the Creole language is like such a native part of the culture that I hope doesn't like get erased, because I feel like the younger generations don't learn Creole as much. There's the Creole language and the Creole culture, if that makes sense. So I mean, there's Creole food, Creole music, Creole fashion. There's that part of the Creole in Reunion that is like so important to the culture there that you should learn, and you will learn about, and you'll see it everywhere. But the Creole language, you don't need to learn that. It's okay. But it is good to learn it. I learned a few phrases. The number one phrase that everyone told me to learn was "Mie mau," which means I love you. Another question I get asked about the culture is it easy to adapt to? And I say yes. I mean, I don't know, as long as you're not super picky and super, you know, close-minded, because the reunion culture is so diverse and just so beautiful, you can't help but kind of blend into it, because there's so many different elements to the Creole reunion culture. There's elements from, obviously, France. There's elements from Madagascar, India, Mauritius. There's such a blend of all these different cultures that are represented in reunion that, I mean, it's really easy to adapt to, at least for me, as long as you're open-minded, you know. I will say that if you are going to a reunion and you have no idea what to do, where to go, I have this nice long list. I'll either put it in the description. If it's not there, feel free to email me for it. I made a list of things to do based on region, north, south, east, and west, and by season, because there's a lot of activities you can do during different seasons. Obviously, there's so much more things to do than on that list, and you can hit up, you know, Lonely Planet or something like that. That's a great list, but it's overwhelming to look at everything on Lonely Planet. At least it was for me, so just throwing that out there too. And the last category of questions is personal questions. And one I get a lot is, were you able to practice your French, and did your French improve? For me, yes and yes. I think this question varies per person. And if you've ever studied abroad in a different country and you're trying to learn the language, you'll know that it's really what you make of it. If you surround yourself with a bunch of English speakers the whole time, no, your French is not going to improve that much. But for me, I lived in a house with 10 other people that only spoke French, so I would go out during the day, go do my grocery shopping, go do all my errands in French, then I would teach in English, then come home, my brain would be exhausted, but it would still have to be in French mode to speak to my housemates, my landlord, everything like that. So that's really how my French kind of skyrocketed while I was there. I will say I did see a difference between studying abroad and working abroad. When I studied abroad and I would be like, oh yeah, I'm an exchange student, they're like, oh, that's so cute, like your accent's so cute. But then if I'm working abroad, they're like, oh, it's not as cute because you're there to work. And it's like a barrier between getting stuff done and doing things efficiently and quickly. So I did definitely notice that difference, so you really have to step up your game. I feel like I make it sound pretty bad, but it just shot up my French so much, like so much. So yeah, it's really what you make of it. Another question is, how was making friends on the island? I think that depends by person. For me, I am not the greatest at making friends anywhere. So most of my friends on the island were either my housemates or other assistants, and that's pretty much it. Like, your co-teachers and everything are kind of older than you, which isn't a bad thing, but it's kind of not as easy to relate or have a lot of commonalities between them, which I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's just a little different, you know what I mean? Another question I got was, where did you go on vacation or holiday? A lot of people in Reunion, they go to Mauritius, which is right next door, Seychelles, Rodrigue, which is all very similar islands, but also very different. I went to Mauritius and Thailand. That's why I have that Thailand vlog, because that's where I went. I saw a direct flight to Thailand and I just took it. So that's how I ended up there. And I will say, for the TAPIF program, you get a lot of paid vacation. Like a lot. Like a good amount of weeks you have off, because there's like a fall break, a winter break that is long, and a spring break, I think. I've totally forgotten, but they're all paid, which is crazy to me. So that's a big plus. And another question was, what was your favorite part and what was your least favorite part? My favorite part was easily the culture. I feel like it's kind of obvious as I talk about it how much I love the culture and everything about it, because it's so diverse and so unique. And I loved being able to use my French, but do it in such a different place, if that makes sense. I'm sure there's a lot of different countries that speak French that I could do the same, but I just loved it there so much. My least favorite part was honestly working only 12 to 15 hours a week. I guess I was just so used to the busy American go that working 12 hours a week was just like, it made me restless, it made me kind of bored, made me feel kind of lonely sometimes. The last thing I'll say is to expect to live a tropical life. Beaches all the time, fresh exotic fruit, and then spiders bigger than your hand, not having as much AC. But I couldn't recommend it enough. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to message me anywhere, and good luck!